When you met the 2013 Toombs County Bulldogs, what did you tell them?
I told them we're going to concentrate on character. We're going to build from the inside out, have some discipline, and it's not. I was straightforward with them. I said it's not going to be easy, but anything worth its salt is never easy. And we're talking. I told them my expectations are extremely high. Whatever they're expecting, I'm expecting tenfold that. We're going to work hard, the staff's going to work hard, and we're going to try to bring some glory to Toombs County football.
When is your first official day?
April 8th. I'll be here April 8th.
And have you begun hiring a staff?
We've worked on it. I'm interviewing some pretty impressive individuals. Made a hire the other day. Well, hopefully, of course, it's got to be approved. But really exciting time to be involved with Toombs County.
All right, you've never been a head coach. Is that something you've always wanted to be?
Always. From day one, when I left the University of Alabama and went back up to Norfolk, Virginia, became an assistant coach, I've always wanted to be a head coach. You pick up different things along the way from different people you work for. And I worked for two gentlemen in Virginia, Dave Hudak and Hank Sawyer, that really taught me a lot about running or coaching. And then when I had the opportunity to move down to Dublin, Coach Holmes, of course, taught me how to run a championship program and kind of put everything together. You take some things out that you've been taught, and you add some things. So I've had 18 years to build up my resume, if you will, and I think I'm ready. I think it's time to be a head coach. And as I told you a couple weeks ago, Toombs County has always been in my radar since I've been in Georgia, because I've always been impressed with the character and the quality of the young men that play at Toombs County. So why not try my luck here and build a championship program and win ball games and have a good time doing it.
Well, you've experienced a Friday night at the pit. You've been here with Dublin, so you know what that's like.
Oh, it's great. It's a great atmosphere. We're gonna, hopefully, God willing, we're gonna have a party at the pit every Friday night.
All right, you talked to the football team. Have you had a chance to really look at them on video and see what they're like?
I have. I've watched film on Huddle, and I think the potential's there. There's some things we need to tweak as far as technique and some fundamentals, but I think the ingredients are there. And I told them this the other day in our meeting. I think the ingredients are there for championship football.
Well, you got an offensive line coming back almost intact, so that's going to help. You're going to lose Taman Hampton, obviously, and he was a big part of that O-line, but plenty of guys coming back on the O-line. How important is it to have a good O-line for what you're doing?
For what I do, it's extremely important. That's one of the things that was very intriguing about coming here, is that in the Split Back Veer, the O-line, I need big offensive line, wide splits, big offensive line to spread the defense out a little bit and get in the way. If we can stay down on the hip, we're going to have some success with Jamar running the ball. He's going to be I sat down with him the other day. He's going to be a key cog in what we do for the next couple of years. I had the really great opportunity of meeting the tight end. I think he's a great kid, Eric Hester. He's getting a lot of mail from colleges. I just spoke with him when I was in the school a couple minutes ago. A quality individual, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for character, discipline, integrity in our kids, and if in building that, and I think that's the key to having a championship program, is building that character and starting from the inside out.
All right, you mentioned some of the veterans. You also got a good core coming up. A lot of young guys that were ninth graders last year. The B team played pretty well. You got some running backs there. Have you had a chance to look at those guys?
I've seen the ones that play on defense.
Like a Landon Coward.
Oh, very. Yeah. He's with my son right now. He's going around to school right now. Bryant's going around with Landon right now, and a quality kid again. It's wonderful to keep meeting quality kids, and I know it's JD's birthday. I heard on the radio this morning. I had the opportunity. I've known him for a little while, since he's been wrestling in middle school, and it's just the quality of kid is so great here, and I think it's gonna be a pleasure coaching these young men.
What is the split back veer going to look like to, I guess, a football fan who's probably heard of it, but maybe doesn't know all the intricacies of it?
It's a triple option, just out of split backs, and you can go either way. You have a dive back and you have a pitch back. Quarterback reads, inside veer, outside veer, have two different types of reads, and but depending on the read, if the read takes the dive, you keep it, and become the option on the outside with pitch. It's option football, and it's been very successful when I've had when I used to coach it up in Virginia. And like I said, I think it's a great fit for our program here, for the type of player that we have. It's a great fit. The big backs that we have. You have a pounder like Jamar. Then we have some quick backs that will be good. I'm not going to say Jamar will be the dive back as he will be a pitch back. It's really either way, and the way we run it is I'll call a play, and it's funny. Talked to some people at the Booster Club the other night. All the quarterback has to do is count to which way we're going to go, count the least amount of players, and that's which way we're going to go. So it's an offense that will fit and suit the personnel that we have here at Toombs County.
What always impressed me about Dublin was how precise they were running their wing. Right. How were they able to do that? You were part of that. How were they so precise and so, I don't know, professional doing it?
It's, Coach Holmes is a stickler for the little things when we're coaching. He would, if I didn't do something right, which happened a lot, he'd pull me aside and tell me, this is what we need to do. It's extremely important to do the little things right. And that's what the kids harped on. And there was a lot of pride in Dublin. To do that, and he, of course, broke so many records, scoring records in the state, just being a stickler for those little things. And that's that's one thing that I did pick up for him, making the little things right, technique, getting your head placement for tackling, getting on the hip and driving when you're blocking. And we're going to really, this spring, stick to those fundamentals, and in practices in the fall, in the summer, stick to the fundamentals. We're gonna master the fundamentals, master tackling, master blocking, and running, and we'll see where we go from there.
Does it take a lot of repetitions to get it down?
It does. Coach Holmes, his the wing tee that he runs is intricate. He's so precise with everything and intricate with everything that it does take a lot of repetitions to get it down. And we will have a lot of reps on offense, obviously, to get what we need done. It's a new offense coming in, and it's going to take a little while. I'm thankful to have the spring and the summer to work on it. So hopefully we'll get it all together, and you'll see an offensive machine at Toombs County.
Will you be kind of unique in the region and around the area running that offense?
Very much so. There's not too many teams that run that anymore. Triple option football. It's sort of what Georgia Southern runs. Different formation, but it's what Georgia Southern runs, basically what Georgia Tech runs. And as well as I do, if a team has a week off before they play Georgia Tech, they're going to be pretty good against Georgia Tech. But if they don't, it's hard to stop them.
Is there a lot of cut blocking?
No, we're not.
Not like that.
Not like Georgia Tech. No, we're gonna stay on a hip. We're not gonna cut block.
We're talking to Steve Versprille, and his wife Christy is here, and of course Steve is the new head football coach of the Toombs County Bulldogs. You mentioned spring practice. When will that be this year?
Well, we're working on it. I'm working with the spring coaches to see when we can have them. We're probably going to have to spread it out, 3, maybe 4 weeks or whatever. Have 2-3 practices. We get 10 in the spring, so it doesn't matter what 10, but as long as you get 10, as long as you don't go over 10. So we're going to probably try to spread it out a little bit. And
are we talking about May?
Late April, early May. See, school ends, I think, the 17th, so we're going to have to kind of rush on it. But,
and you'll be working with baseball season, too. Some of the guys play baseball as well.
I was talking to Coach Fitz the other day, and I think 4 quarterbacks play baseball, so that's going to be tough. But we're going to work around it. We're going to get it done. we're going to get what we need done in the spring and go from there.
Now, you mentioned the quarterbacks. We got to take a news break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what you're looking for in a split back veer quarterback. We got Steve Versprille here, the new head football coach of the Toombs County Bulldogs, and we'll also talk to his wife, Christy, about the family and moving down here and about being a coach's wife, and we'll do that in just a moment. It is 8:32 at Y-101. You got a lot of guys competing for that number 1 and 2 position. What do you look for in a split back veer quarterback?
The first thing I look for is smarts, being like we talked about a little bit earlier, being able to count on both sides of the center. The second thing is, good eyes. He's got to be able to read and understand what he does when the dive back gets, they come to the dive back and he's got a pitch. It's a matter of sight, smarts, and athletic ability. I'm not really interested in the best runners, but somebody that can read is read the read man is important, so for our offense. So that's kind of what I look for: somebody that's smart, somebody that can read, and somebody that can pitch.
Or you got guys that have never done that. Is it tough to learn that quickly, or will be able to be easily grasped? It
can be. It depends on their willingness to grasp it. If they're willing to be that type of quarterback. I'm not going to say we're not going to throw the ball. I mean, obviously, our passing game is going to be work off of what we're doing, running the ball. The play action is extremely important in this type of offense, and it usually opens up pretty good. Tight end catches a lot of balls, and we run a lot of short routes with the receivers. Going to run some screens, bubble screens to the outside, quick screens. Just depending on what I haven't had a chance to look at what we have as far as receivers and quarterbacks go. So it's going to be interesting this spring.
Yeah, I can see that play action. You fake it to Jamar, and he's such a great runner. People are going to go, he's going to take that ball, and then all of a sudden you drop back, boom, you got an open guy.
Right. So we run a tight end pop, we run a slot pop, we run a split end pop. It's a type pop pass where we're every motion is like we're running the veer, and quarterback takes 3 steps after he fakes the dive back and throws the ball to one of those receivers.
Now, we haven't talked much defense. I'm not going to ask you his name, but have you hired a defensive coordinator?
I think Coach Cravey's going to do it for me. He's done a good job. I've had the opportunity to sit down and talk with him. I think he's a great individual. He's kind of what I'm looking for as far as coaches go. He's got a lot of character. I can tell when I sit down and talk to him. So we're going to stay with him. He's very optimistic about what we're going to do, very familiar with what we're going to do. So I'm going to allow him to run the defense.
And that's great. He's a very experienced coach. He's an assistant and a head coach.
Right.
So Jay Cravey will be the defensive coordinator, and you'll be filling in the rest of the staff. And tell us what you're going to look like defensively based on what you've seen with your personnel.
Well, we're going to run a 4-3. We've got to find three good linebackers. What we've been able to accomplish in Dublin in my years there is have a fast will linebacker on the weak side, an athletically fast player, and a plugger in the middle, a Mike linebacker that can tackle or play from B-gap to B-gap, and a Sam linebacker that can force, plays. So linebacker-wise, that's what I'm looking for, and understand this: that every position on the field is wide open. I'm going to play the best players at every position, and so the spring will be interesting.
Will there be much hitting in the spring?
There will be some. I'm more concerned about getting an understanding of what we're going to do. But we will hit, and we will have a spring game, hopefully at the end of spring, and everybody can come watch and see how far along we are, or if we haven't made it that far yet.
And that will be in the pit?
Yes, it will. It will be in the pit.
Okay, I've been here a long time. I can't remember a spring game in the pit. I think they had a spring game a couple of years ago, but they played it over at the middle school field.
We're gonna open it up, and public's gonna be invited, and we're gonna have some fun.
It'll be interesting. Now we're bringing the whole family down here.
We are.
When y'all gonna move down here?
My kids are going to finish out at Dublin this year because of credits and that kind of crazy stuff, and move down here sometime this summer.
And you have athletes in the family. You have a football player and a softball player, right?
My son Bryant, he's a football player, a wrestler, and he plays soccer. And my daughter Bailey is a cheerleader. She plays softball. And she plays soccer. She's very good at soccer. And I was very proud last night at her game. She had a college coach come up to her after the game and get her information for soccer. So I'm really excited about that. I was very proud. I had a tear in my eye. She's my she's my angel, and anything good that happens to her is awesome. She's the #1 in her class. And my son's extremely smart as well. Of course, they don't get that from me. They get that from my wife.
How did your father get down to Bamber? Did Bryant come up there and get him?
Well, that's an interesting story. He back then, signing a scholarship wasn't as binding as it is now. And I had two uncles that went before my dad that went down to Florida State, played for Tom Nugent, and it's an interesting story. My uncle Pat played at Florida State. He broke his neck 3 years in and was paralyzed. My Uncle George followed him, and there was an assistant on the staff by the name of Bobby Bowden. And my Uncle George's grades, they weren't too good. So when Bobby Bowden went down to South Georgia Junior College, when he got that head coaching job, he took my Uncle George with him. And then he went to Howard University, which is Samford now. After that, and took my Uncle George with him there. And my Uncle George was actually Bobby Bowden's first All-American. Interesting story as well, a couple years ago, was at the FCA banquet up in Atlanta before the Chick-fil-A Bowl, and Bobby Bowden was the guest speaker, and I went up to Coach Bowden. I'd met him a couple times before. And I said, I'm Steve Versprille. Of course, he's older. He don't remember. So I said, I'm Steve Versprille. He said, oh, yeah. Your Uncle George, I still have his picture in my office. So it was behind when he was at Florida State, it was behind his desk, and it was interesting. But my dad went to Florida State. No, I'm sorry, he signed with Florida State. And then Coach Gene Stallings came into town, took my grandmother and grandfather and my dad out to dinner, big seafood dinner up there in Norfolk. And Coach Bryant came in a couple weeks later, and the interesting thing, he made my grandparents fall in love with him. He kept saying, we want Eddie really bad. My dad was a high school All-American, defensive back and running back, and we want Eddie really bad, and I want him because he comes from good stock, and it's always stuck with me. He comes from good stock. That was Coach Bryant's pitch to my grandparents. And went down. My dad traveled down to Alabama, loved it in Tuscaloosa, and the rest is history. He played 3 years. Started at fullback and linebacker for him on some great teams. Won a national championship in 1961, and really paved the way for me to go down there and meet a lot of good people. And I missed the national championship by 1 year. Had an ACL surgery on my left knee and wasn't able to do it. So my last year playing was 1991, and they won one in 1992, so.
That's right, under Gene Stallings.
That's right.
Bill Oliver was a defensive coordinator. Your father played with him, right?
That's right. Brother Oliver, he played with my dad.
And Bobby Bowden, by the way, I don't know if a lot of people know this, he actually was a Bammer for a while.
That's right.
And he had to leave because he was married.
That's right.
So he had to go to Howard, which is now Samford.
Mm-hmm.
Your father played for two, I guess, legendary Alabama quarterbacks. Handed him the ball. The first one was a gutsy guy named Pat Trammell.
Oh, well, my dad tears up when he talks about Pat Trammell. Just the leadership and the grit and the determination. He said he wasn't the best quarterback, but he was a winner.
He's like one of Bryant's favorites.
All right.
Yeah.
And when he passed away, he died of cancer. They said Coach Bryant was extremely saddened by that. I mean, to the point of depression.
My sister actually went to school with his son, Pat Jr.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Looks just like him.
Yeah.
Looks just like him.
And then the next quarterback is, I guess, one of the most legendary, Joe Willie Namath.
Joe Willie. That's right. That's right. Him and my dad are pretty good friends. They went to church together and everything down there, and believe it or not, with Joe Willie. But my dad was extremely upset, and when Coach Bryant had to kick him off the team for a little while. So every time I would see, when I was in college, when I would see Joe, he'd always make a point to talk to me whether it was in a big crowd or not, just because of who my dad was and what my dad meant to him.
Joe Willie Namath, of course, handed the ball to your father. Your father was a leading rusher one year for the Alabama Crimson Tide, and also he was a linebacker, which when you say that now, they'd be like, no way can a guy be a great linebacker, because Bryant said at the time he's one of the best in the SEC and also be a leading running back. That's quite rare.
It is. A lot of people don't understand, back then, you had to go both ways. The only people that changed out was a defensive back and a quarterback. From offense to defense. Interesting about my dad leading the team in rushing, and you're going to be, I don't know if you know the numbers, but he led the team in rushing.
370 or something?
Yeah, it was 370 yards rushing. That's a game now, So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, but Joe Willie was a quarterback. I guess they slung it around back then a little.
They did. His first touchdown pass actually was against Georgia. Richard Williamson caught the pass. He ended up being an NFL coach for a long time, caught the first touchdown pass of Joe Willie's career.
A lot of guys that became coaches played with your father. Charlie Pell was on the team.
Charlie Pell.
Yeah.
He coached at Florida and Clemson.
Bill Oliver, Richard Williamson.
Right.
And your father played with a Neighbors, and I think you played with a Neighbors too,
I
right?
played with Keith, and my dad played with Billy.
Yeah, and then Wes Neighbors was there at Alabama when I covered the Crimson Tide.
All-American.
Yeah.
Played for the Patriots.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So there are a lot of connections. You played with a famous coach. You played with Dabo Swinney.
Dabo Swinney, great individual, quality guy, great character.
He's now the head coach at Clemson. You stay in touch with him?
It's interesting. My mom passed away last April, and one of the first text messages I got was from Dabo, sending condolences, and I thought that was great, and that just shows what type of character he has.
Does he know you got the head coaching job?
He does. He does. I have actually my wife's cousin, who's my best friend, is a big booster of Clemson, and that he frequently talks with Dabo's father.
And the Bulldogs have a tie to Clemson and Nick Eason. Have you met Nick?
I have not, but I've seen pictures of him. Coach Hill was showing me stuff on Nick the other day, and it's incredible. He's built pretty good.
He's been hanging around one of your players, by the way.
Oh yeah, who's
Yeah,
that?
Jamar has been coming up to the gym with Nick. They've been working
good.
out together. Yeah,
Good, that's great.
he's been mentoring Jamar.
That's important.
Yeah, because Nick is like one of the best guys ever.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
He gives a lot back to the community, so that's wonderful.
This Bammer thing. I mean, right now Bama's on top of the world. 3 national championships in 4 years. Do you know Nick Saban?
I don't want to tell the story about him, but I do. I've met him on 2 occasions.
What is he like when he's not the football coach? When you're just talking to him like we are right now?
Well, I was at an A-club golf tournament. Of course, he's going around shaking hands. It's great. It's in a setting like that. It's casual, and he's a pretty good guy.
On the football field, have you been to one of his practices?
I have.
What are they like? I've never been to one, obviously.
It's kind of what I want to model my practices after. There's never, nobody ever stops. There's constant movement throughout the entire practice, going from pre-practice drills to dynamic warm-up to team to group. I mean, it's just nonstop. And you got managers running around giving water to everybody because they do not stop. And he gets it done in about 2 hours and 15 minutes. And he is vocal, and he is coaching the defensive backs when he's out there. And it's interesting to see him do that because he knows he's an expert at it, and he's very meticulous and gets them. There's certain ways they have to play, or he will tell them they're not doing it right. So it's interesting to watch him coach.
I hear there's not a lot of contact at practice. Is that true?
There is at the end. They don't do a lot of contact until the end of practice when they go ones-on-ones. And they do the first team defense against the first team offense, and it's full bore. And it's competition, and they go at it.
Well, I was talking to Nick Eason about this and about the National Football League in practice. Practice has really changed at football, I think, at every level but high school, because they don't hit as much in college as they used to.
Right.
Like when I covered Auburn and Alabama, and they certainly don't hit as much in practice, and hardly ever sometimes in the NFL.
Right. When I was at Alabama, I can remember going in shorts. 2 out of the 4 days we practiced during the week. The rest, it's all, a lot of it is mental and understanding what you're supposed to do. And on that level, on the college level, and especially in the NFL, they know what you can do as far as hitting and tackling and all that kind of stuff. So it's more of getting the game plan in and understanding what you're supposed to do for this week's game.
Well, what are your thoughts on contact? There are some high school teams, I understand, around the state of Georgia that only like hit maybe one day out of the week.
Our main hitting days are going to be Monday and Tuesday. Depending on what we need to get accomplished. It's all in what you need to fix from the week before, and what you need to input for the next week's game. So, if we need it, we need it. But I'm planning on having full pads on Mondays and Tuesdays. Wednesdays, shorts and shoulder pads, and of course Thursdays, just helmets.
Yeah, this is a touchy subject in football, but it's really coming up now a lot with the head injuries and how you protect players. How do you think you can protect a player the best you can?
It's teaching them the right way to tackle, teaching them what having their eyes up when they tackle, getting their head across. It is out there, and it is a epidemic as far as head injuries go. But our coaches are going to teach the proper way to tackle, the proper way to block, and that should prevent some injuries. Also, they have helmets out now. I was at a clinic in Tampa over the weekend, and it's just amazing what they can do with a helmet nowadays. When I was playing, it was felt like just a piece of plastic over your head with a face mask on it. So the helmets are much better. They're engineered better. They've got better ingredients to build the helmet. But like I said, it's all in the way that you teach tackling.
I need to mention one more time that we're talking to Steve Versprille, the new head football coach of the Toombs County Bulldogs, and wife Christy is here, and right now we're talking about football and making it safe. I watch an NFL game, and sometimes these guys don't tackle. They just want to hit. That's all they want to do. They want to fly at somebody, and they just want to nail them. And I think that's one thing that's changed in football is form tackling, especially at that level, just sometimes doesn't exist.
Well, I call that Deion Sanders tackling, because he kind of came into the league, and that's the way he tried to do it. He just tried to dive at people's legs. So, not knocking Deion Sanders at all. He's one of the greatest defensive backs to ever play the game. But I think that kind of set off the way kids and tackle, because boys on our level emulate those pro players. Whereas I was trying to emulate the college players. I've always been more of a college football fan than I have with the NFL. But our youth today try to emulate that, and you can see it. You can see it all the way from the youth games all the way up to high school. It's that emulation, but it's all in the way that you teach tackling. Tackling is an art, and like you said, it's a lost art. But there's certain things, certain steps you have to take, and the way I've always taught tackling is one step, two step. We do all the steps up to making a tackle, whether it's straightforward tackling or getting your head across. It's all in the way you teach it, and that's one of the things we're gonna stick on. And then taking on blocks, we need to work on that as well. So a lot of things we need to work on, but we're gonna get it done.